Nolan Wells arrived on Horn Island with his friends, but he never returned with them. They say the 18-year-old athlete willingly stayed behind after meeting a young woman. But did Nolan truly make that decision? Or is someone's version of his final moments incomplete? The woman reportedly believed Nolan was heading back toward his friends. His family insists he would never remain alone without a confirmed ride. And then there is the most disturbing clue. Nolan's phone returned to the mainland on the boat without him, with reports of missing Snapchat activity. 2 days later, Nolan was found dead. Now investigators must determine who last saw him, who handled his phone, and whether digital evidence will expose what really happened. When Nolan Wells traveled with a group of friends to Horn Island on July 4th, no one could have imagined that the holiday trip would end with his family desperately searching for answers. Nolan was only 18 years old. He was a talented athlete, a college football player, and a young man who appeared to have an exciting future ahead of him. According to those who knew him, Nolan was active, social, and physically strong. His family also described him as a capable swimmer. But after spending the day on a remote Mississippi island with friends, Nolan did not return to the mainland with the rest of the group. His friends have offered an explanation. They say Nolan met a young woman on the island and decided to stay behind with her. According to that version, Nolan willingly allowed the boat to leave without him because he expected to find another ride back later. That story may sound believable at first. An 18-year-old meets someone new, changes his plans, and decides to remain at a crowded summer gathering for a little longer. It could have been a spontaneous decision made without considering the possible consequences. But Nolan's family has questioned that explanation from the beginning. They do not believe he would voluntarily stay behind on a remote island after his friends departed, especially without arranging a reliable way home. More importantly, they question why Nolan would make that choice without taking his phone. Because while Nolan reportedly remained on Horn Island, his cell phone returned to the mainland aboard the boat. That single detail has become one of the biggest mysteries in the entire case. Friends have reportedly said that people sometimes leave their phones on boats because they do not want the devices damaged by water or sand. That explanation is possible. Anyone spending time near the ocean may decide to store an expensive phone somewhere safe. But the situation becomes harder to understand if Nolan genuinely planned to remain on the island after his friends left. Without his phone, how would Nolan contact the person who was supposed to give him another ride? How would he communicate with his family? How would he use maps, call for help, or reach anyone if his plans suddenly changed? And did Nolan even know that his phone was still on the boat when the vessel left the island? These questions do not prove that a crime occurred, but they make the forensic examination of Nolan's phone extremely important. That device may contain the clearest record of his final communications. Investigators may be able to determine who Nolan spoke with before the boat departed, whether he sent messages about remaining on the island, and whether he attempted to contact anyone after meeting the young woman. The phone may also contain location information from apps, map services, and accounts such as Life 360. Even if Nolan was separated from the device, investigators could potentially establish exactly when the phone moved away from Horn Island and returned toward the mainland. That timeline could then be compared with the statements provided by Nolan's friends. The family's attorney has announced that the phone will undergo what has been described as a mutual inspection. Official investigators and experts working with the family are expected to examine the device. That arrangement is unusual. In a typical investigation, law enforcement would immediately secure a phone as evidence, document who possessed it, and create a forensic copy before beginning an examination. But Nolan's family reportedly had to locate the phone themselves. A retired FBI agent discussing the case explained that law enforcement ideally should have taken control of the device as quickly as possible. Doing so would protect the chain of custody and prevent later questions about whether data was altered, deleted, or accidentally changed. This does not mean someone definitely tampered with Nolan's phone. However, investigators will need to determine who possessed the device after the boat returned, who had access to it, and whether any account activity occurred after Nolan was separated from it. The mystery becomes more serious because of reports concerning Nolan's Snapchat activity. According to information discussed in the original reporting, Snapchat activity from the day Nolan disappeared may have been missing or deleted. At this point, it has not been publicly confirmed that someone intentionally wiped Nolan's Snapchat account. Data can disappear for several reasons. Snapchat is designed to remove certain content automatically, and users may also delete messages or accounts themselves. But digital investigators do not rely only on what is visible on a phone screen. Deleted does not always mean permanently erased. The FBI and other forensic experts may be able to recover information from the device, connected accounts, or Snapchat service. They can seek preservation orders and legal demands for metadata, login records, and other account information. They may be able to determine when Nolan last accessed Snapchat, which accounts communicated with him, and whether someone logged into his account after he was no longer in possession of the phone. Other substances affected his judgment, coordination, or physical ability. Nolan's family has emphasized that he was a strong swimmer if activity was removed. Investigators will also want to know when it disappeared and whether that deletion was automatic, accidental, or intentional. That could become a crucial part of the investigation. But the phone is not the only evidence creating questions. There also appear to be differences between the accounts describing Nolan's final movements. Friends reportedly said Nolan stayed behind because he wanted to spend time with the young woman he had just met. However, a different account associated with the woman reportedly suggests that Nolan left her because he was trying to catch up with his friends. Those two versions create an important contradiction. Was Nolan planning to remain with the women, or was he heading back toward the boat? Did he believe the boat was still waiting? Did anyone on the boat know that he was attempting to return? And was the decision to leave Nolan behind based on something he clearly said, or on an assumption made by the group? These details may determine whether Nolan willingly remained on the island or was unintentionally left behind. The boat's GPS information could help investigators answer part of that question. Movement records reportedly show that the vessel left its original dock shortly before 10 o'clock in the morning and reached Horn Island a little after 11 o'clock. Later that afternoon, the boat departed the island at approximately 4:31. Nolan was not aboard when it returned to the mainland. The GPS data establishes where the boat traveled, but it cannot explain Nolan's intentions. Investigators must combine it with witness statements, photographs, videos, and digital timestamps. Even a small difference in the reported departure time could matter. If Nolan was walking back toward the boat, investigators need to determine how far away he was when the vessel left. They must also establish whether anyone saw him after his friends departed. Another potentially important development involves reported radio communication from the boat's return journey. Audio discussed in the original interview appeared to indicate that the boat may have experienced mechanical trouble or begun taking on water, leading the group to request assistance. That audio must be authenticated before any conclusion is reached. But if it is genuine, it could provide investigators with another verified timestamp. It may reveal the boat's location, its condition, and how long the return journey took. It could also explain delays or route changes that might otherwise appear unusual. There have additionally been references to possible reports of an argument near the shoreline. Again, this information has not been confirmed as evidence directly connected to Nolan. Investigators would need to establish when the alleged argument occurred, who was involved, and whether any available recording actually came from Horn Island on July 4th. This is why online theories must be treated carefully. A rumor may sound dramatic, but investigators need verified evidence before connecting it to Nolan's death. The people who were on Horn Island that day could play a major role in establishing the truth. The family's legal team says it has received numerous calls from individuals claiming they were present on the island. Some may have photographs or videos that captured Nolan or his friends in the background. A seemingly ordinary vacation photograph could become important if it contains a timestamp, a visible boat, or a person standing in a particular location. Investigators may also examine cell tower information and data from other phones used on the island. Nolan's phone is central to the investigation, but every device present that day may form part of the wider digital picture. Suppose a witness claims to have remained in one location until a particular time, but their phone data shows that they moved elsewhere much earlier. That inconsistency would require an explanation. On the other hand, digital information may support a witness's account and remove suspicion from someone who has been unfairly accused online. This investigation should not be about forcing the evidence to match a popular theory. It should be about comparing every statement with objective data. Nolan's friends have publicly defended themselves. One friend said that the group had done nothing wrong and that everyone cared deeply about Nolan. He said no one wanted Nolan's life to end and expressed frustration over the accusations directed at the group. That side of the story cannot be ignored. People may provide different timelines because memories are imperfect. Events can become confused during panic, grief, and intense public scrutiny. A contradiction is not automatically proof of a lie. But investigators must still determine why the accounts do not perfectly match. Someone may have misunderstood Nolan's plan. Someone may have assumed he had another ride. Or someone may know more than they have publicly explained. That is where doubt enters the investigation. Who was the last confirmed person to see Nolan alive? What exactly did Nolan say before the boat left? Did he clearly tell his friends that he wanted to remain behind? Did the young women hear a different plan? And why did no one ensure that Nolan had his phone or a safe way to retain? 2 days after the boat departed Horn Island, Nolan's body was discovered. At the time of the original report, officials had not publicly released a final cause or manner of death. The family arranged for a private autopsy in Washington, D.C., with former NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick reportedly helping to fund the examination. Tyler Perry was also reported to be assisting with Nolan's funeral expenses. The private autopsy could provide an independent assessment of Nolan's injuries and physical condition. Medical experts may examine whether Nolan drowned, suffered an injury, experienced a medical emergency, or died under different circumstances. Toxicology results could determine whether alcohol, medication, or that fact understandably raises questions, but it does not completely rule out an accident. Strong swimmers can still be overwhelmed by currents, exhaustion, dehydration, or an unexpected medical condition. A person can also become disoriented or injured while alone in unfamiliar surroundings. The autopsy and toxicology findings are therefore essential. Without those results, it is too early to state with certainty how Nolan died. This is one reason the authorities' early statement about finding no indication of foul play created controversy. A retired FBI agent described such a conclusion as premature when the full medical and digital evidence had not yet been examined. There is an important difference between saying investigators have not yet discovered evidence of a crime and declaring that no crime occurred. The first statement leaves the investigation open. The second can create the impression that a conclusion has already been reached. For Nolan's family, that early announcement may have made them fear that an accidental explanation was being accepted before all of the facts were known. The FBI's involvement has also increased public interest in the case. But the FBI entering an investigation does not automatically mean that a murder has been confirmed. Horn Island and the area where Nolan was found involve federal land considerations. The FBI may also be assisting because of its advanced digital forensic capabilities. Federal agents can help examine phones, online accounts, location records, and communication data. They may also assist local authorities with witness interviews and evidence analysis. The family recently met with the district attorney to discuss the investigation. The case may eventually be presented to a grand jury once investigators have collected the available evidence. A grand jury can review records, hear testimony, and determine whether there is sufficient legal basis for criminal charges. But the mention of a grand jury does not mean that a suspect has been formally identified or that an arrest is guaranteed. It shows that the investigation is continuing and that prosecutors may eventually ask independent citizens to examine the evidence. The family's attorneys say they still have many unanswered questions. Some information may be withheld because investigators need to protect witness statements or avoid revealing sensitive evidence. But the lack of public answers has allowed rumors to spread rapidly. Social media has become both helpful and dangerous in this case. It can help locate witnesses and collect photographs, but it can also spread false information. At least one widely circulated pool party image was reportedly not taken on the day Nolan disappeared, despite initially being discussed as though it were connected to the case. That example shows why every photo, video, and online claim must be verified. Unconfirmed material can unfairly taint witnesses into suspects and distract attention from genuine evidence. For now, several major questions remain. Did Nolan really decide to stay behind after meeting a girl? Was he instead trying to return to his friends? Why did the boat leave without him? Why did his phone return to the mainland while he remained on Horn Island? What happened to his Snapchat activity? Who had access to the phone after the boat retained? And what will the private autopsy reveal about Nolan's death? The truth may not be hidden inside one dramatic clue. It may emerge when investigators combine the phone data, Snapchat records, Life 360 information, boat GPS, radio communications, witness photographs, cell tower records, and medical findings. Together, those pieces could establish Nolan's final movements. Until then, no friend, witness, or young woman should be publicly declared guilty without evidence. But the contradictions cannot simply be ignored either. Someone's understanding of Nolan's final decision may be wrong. Someone may have assumed he was safe when he was not, and it remains possible that a person involved knows a detail that investigators have not yet confirmed. Nolan's family deserves an investigation that is complete, transparent, and based on facts. His friends also deserve to be judged by evidence rather than online speculation. But most importantly, Nolan deserves a truthful explanation of what happened after the boat left Horn Island without him. Did he willingly stay behind for a girl? Or will the phone that returned without him reveal that the real story was very different?